Hey, Nukri here. Today I don't want to talk about technology because honestly, technology by itself isn't interesting to people. People care about something else. Why at the same point you suddenly feel powerless while around you is the most advanced digital world in history? And here is a simple question. Have you ever caught yourself thinking that your life has started to feel like an apartment where a light doesn't turn on in your room, but somewhere far away on somewhere else control panel? Not necessarily literally. Sometimes it's a bank, sometimes it's a world service, sometimes it's an account, sometimes it's just a message temporarily unavailable. And that's exactly what I want to talk about today. That feeling that the digital world has a button, and that button is not in our hands. Imagine the most ordinary day. You wake up, you grab your phone, you want to do something simple, pay, confirm, login, send. And instead you see your access is limited, suspicious activity, servers temporarily unavailable. And it's a strange feeling because inside everything is honest, you are you. But at the same time, system replies, we are not sure yet. And in that moment, it becomes clear you are paying not only with money, you are paying with trust, sometimes with time, sometimes with reputation, sometimes with the freedom of movement. Different people have different fears. Some people are terrified by thought that one day everything could go down at once. Electricity, banks, communication, logistic. Some people fear the feeling of constant surveillance, not because they have something to hide, but because the sense of personal boundaries disappears. Some people fear artificial intelligence, not as a fantasy about the future, but as a system that makes decisions and doesn't explain why. Some people fear fakes, when a loved one's voice can be reproduced so precisely. The trust turns into a vulnerability. And some are simply exhausted that feeling that truth has become too hard to tell apart from imitation. But honestly, all these fears share one common point. This feeling, I depend on someone else button. And now, it's important to say this very directly. We are not talking about distant countries, not about someone out there. We're talking about what happens here in the United States. In 2024, the United States saw one of the largest data breaches in history. A company that performed background checks lost control of database of nearly 3 billion records. In American reality, identity is not a passport. It's a social security number, it's your credit score, it's your address history, it's your background checks. If you ever applied for a job, rented an apartment, taken out a loan, going through a background check, there is a high chance that the part of your digital biography is already out of your control. Not because you made a mistake, but because someone decided that storing everything in one place was more convenient. That same year, the country's largest medical infrastructure was attacked, a system through which medical and insurance data flows for roughly every second person in the United States. And the most important part was not even the breach itself. The system simply stopped working. Pharmacies could not process payments, hospitals could not verify insurance, people came for medicine and heard that the system is unavailable. And in that moment, a digital failure stops being an IT problem. It becomes a physical experience. Because in the United States, healthcare is not an abstraction. It's a question of money, time, and sometimes survival. There is a more thing people have understand very well. A credit score is built over years. It breaks in a week, and it takes years again to restore. All it takes in one application, one loan you never took, and you find out not from a hacker, but from a bank that says, sorry, you're denied. And then it's not a fight against a criminal, it's a fight against the system. This is not theory, this is everyday American's life. When Ticketmaster's user data leaked, hundreds of millions of users' data were attached and affected. It did not happen because people broke rules. It happened because too much ran through one external service, one point, one entry, and through it, millions of lives. The same thing with telecom. Even without the content of conversations, Metadata can reconstruct the map of your life. You weren't the target, you become a side effect of an architecture where too much is concentrated in too few points. At the start of 2025, a leak was recorded of more than 16 billion logins and passwords. And after that, the question stops sounds like, was I hacked? It starts sounds like, which of my data is already being used for someone else? And in that moment, a person starts feeling like a user. They start feeling like an object of infrastructure they did not choose. And here we reach the main point. If digital infrastructure has become part of life, a simple but uncomfortable question appears. Who controls the computation your life depends on? Not the data, the computation itself, where it happens, by whose rules, and what happens when something goes wrong. Because today, you can own your data, but not own the computations under which it gets processed. And this is exactly where an idea appears that truly changed the internet: sovereign computing. Sovereign computing is not about flags, and it's not about politics. It's about something deeply personal. The computation works on your terms, not on the terms of someone else's centralized systems. That your data doesn't have to travel to one faraway place. That processing can happen closer, to be distributed, verifiable, and resilient to failures. In a sense, it's an attempt to return digital sovereignty to the level of person, the business, the community. We're used to thinking the new internet is about speed, but maybe the real new internet is not faster, it's more mature. An internet where there is no single button, where there is no single point of failure, where a failure doesn't switch off your life. An internet that behaves not like a corporation, but like an ecosystem. And then it's become clear. We are not choosing between old and new technology. We are choosing what the next internet will be. An internet of convenience, or an internet of dignity, an internet of centers, or an internet of sovereign computing. An internet where life can stop because of one mistake, or an internet that keeps working because it's built like life itself, distributed and resilient. And here is the most important thing I want to say. This is not about technology being bad. It's about the fact that for too long we accepted vulnerability as a normal. We treated dependence as a price of progress, but the digital world is already part of our lives, which means it must be designed so that life doesn't stop when something doesn't go to plan. If you take away just one thought, let it be simple. Sovereignty is not control over technology, it's control over your life in our digital world. Thank you. Stay curious.